Chris first. Whoops.
Hi there, Chris McCabe from DEFRA. There we are. Chris McCabe from DEFRA and part of the Insight SAG as well, so the Science Advisory Group. Thanks very much for all your talks. Mine is particularly for Henk. So thanks for giving us a roundup of Insight Phase 3. Might be a difficult question to answer, but what do you see, or what is your ideal perception for beyond Phase 3 and the future of Insight? How will this move into the future and the insights that you get from Insight Phase 3?
Well, we're just getting started on Phase 3, Chris, but it's good to know about the road ahead, isn't it? I think, I wouldn't want to talk about a Phase 4, but I think what this work hopes to do is connect up the last 10 years or more of research and really build on where the biggest challenges are right now, and that's where we're focusing a lot of our effort. And where that'll get us to, I think that's part of the answer to your question. And the biggest question in my mind is really around is how do we want to live with our North Seas? How do we want to live with our seas? That question, what is the North Sea for? I think we're going to have to increasingly visit that, all of us across the world. We are building offshore energy structures at an unprecedented rate. Not just us, all over the world. And increasingly, we're going to be left with the legacy of these structures. And so I think we need to think about how we want to manage that in a way that also not just helps with the climate crisis, but also our biodiversity crisis. So I'd like to think that whatever happens after this is something in and around work that brings it all together.
Thank you. I think we have a question online.
Yes, thanks, Christine. So we've got a question that's aimed at, I think, the Valmas team, but Henk, you can also step in, and I'm going to also add my own part to the end of this question. So Tim Robbins has asked what has the acceptance been to the outputs from models like EcoPath and EcoSim by the regulatory bodies in being used in assessing impacts? And I'd like to add on to that, linking to Sam's question from this morning about industry funding and if what's going on within the Insight and Valmas programme with those outputs and what you think about that.
Shall I start?
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, so I think the use of the models, it's been really interesting. We've had the EcoWind synthesis recently, and talking about how we can actually practically use these models in a policy setting has been one of the key questions. So what we'll be doing in Valmas is working with those policy stakeholders and decision makers from the beginning to make sure that the outputs are useful to them. So I think in the past they have been used and it has been useful, but I think it's been bumpy sometimes. So we'll be looking to make sure that that's addressed. I know that I've got Gennady, who's my work modelling lead online, so I don't know if he wants to put something in the comments to add to what I've just said. Or I don't know if either the other panel members want to say anything on that.
I can add, just being as part of the EcoWind.
You may need to talk a bit more loudly.
Can I use this? I can add, just as being part of the EcoWind and EcoFlow programs where we're using these models and working with like the Crown Estate, etc., that they are taking them up. It's been quite difficult to translate that into terms that they'll use. So I think we are beginning to give them outputs. It's just what kind of outputs they want, etc. And I think that's our multi-model ensemblage and going to decision support tools. So we've got multi-level kind of access for different people. And you're the expert on EcoSim.
I'm by far not an expert, but I will be working with EcoPath with EcoSim. And one of the people who has gotten involved with it as well is Kieran Tierney, who's been doing a lot of the work and the cool video that you saw. So he's been really trying to drive this whole, how do we translate a really cool model that gives us a lot of interesting output into something that can actually be applied out with the direct scientific community. So we are aware of it.
And we've got the second part of the question.
Which was about funding and whether or not, so it's funded by UKRI, so that's the UK government. So that's public taxpayers' money. I've never been more conscious of how I spend public taxpayers' money, and I think everyone on the project is the same. But that is coupled with industry, the Insight industry funding as well. I think as academics, we're very used to being objective. Certainly in my career, I have taken a very clear line on that always. It's not for us to make the decisions. It's for us to provide the evidence in a clear way to enable the best decisions to be made. So hopefully that reassures you somewhat.
I think that's a good answer because we want to move. You have another question, don't you? Yeah, thanks. We've got one here and one at the front first, I think. If we do the front first and then, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Annemette Jorgensen from Eco-Effective Strategies. I was wondering, there are a lot of also North Sea-wide initiatives going on, like the Greater North Sea Basin Initiative, the NSEC, also, other sort of marine spatial planning initiatives. How are you involved in linking up with those ones? Because I think this is really very important. Also, the OSPAR process going on renewables, to make sure that all these results get into to those initiatives too and get aligned well.
Yeah, it's an incredibly complex environment, I think, especially when you look at it from an international scope, because obviously it's not just the UK that's active in the North Sea. That's what the work package one is really all about. When I showed that map to understand what's happening, we want to bring in as many partners as we can to make sure that we hear all the relevant voices and that we place our work effectively within that. So I think that's what the community of practice is about. That's what Work Package 1 is about. I don't think we do have a complete handle on everything that's going on in the North Sea just now, but give us 6 to 9 months and I'm fairly confident that we will.
Any comments from the room? Yeah, Henk? Yeah.
I'd like to add to that. Thanks for raising that, Annette. I would say traditionally Insight has had a reach over the North Sea, but it has been quite UK-centric. And your being here and a few other colleagues from the Netherlands and Belgium is testament to us starting to reach out and broaden that scope. And, I think sort of going forward, working with Nikki and the team, we would like to reach out to these other groups as well. And some efforts have already started. So going forward, we don't see this as an inclusive club by any means at all. We think that we're not short of groups either. So it's finding which groups and how to engage best with them, I think, is the key thing. So, yeah, very much a space to watch.
Thank you. We'll move on to, I think Anthony is next. And if there's anyone else who wants to ask a question, shout or stick your hand up. Anthony.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So both Valmas and the Insight programme have fairly big components around social attitudes. And I'm just wondering how you're, so looking at social attitudes, you're looking to query them, but also perhaps lead them to get more of a debate and awareness and discussion, and how, but even raising questions about those attitudes may frame them too. So you have a real issue about before and after and so on. I'm just wondering how you're thinking of handling that tension. Thanks.
Yeah, I would definitely not say we were aiming to lead anybody's view. But obviously, as soon as you share evidence with a person, then you can lead that view, because it depends how you share that evidence. The social scientists on the team are very well equipped at how to bring evidence to communities without having that influence. So we work a lot on that. That's really fundamental in our methodological approaches. So I think, it's a really interesting question. I've worked on surveys from almost all my career, and how you put that evidence out there without influencing the participants is fascinating. But our aim will be to be objective as possible in presenting the scientific evidence and not a particular viewpoint to those people. I don't know if the panel want to add more to that.
I can add a quick point, just from Insight's third project, which you also mentioned. Not being a social scientist, it's not really my forte area, but what we've agreed and how that project is structured, it must be run objectively and independently as well. So whether we like the results or not, that objectivity and independence is critical, and that will hopefully minimize any biases in the results, or any leading behaviors, as you're saying. It is still a tricky area, though, as Nikki agrees. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to Frances, who's the last person to put her hand up. She said.
Yeah, it's connected to Anthony's question, actually. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on the point to do with the citizens panel, on how management decisions affect instrumental, intrinsic and relational values. I was wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit more on that.
On the methodology of the citizen panel?
Just on why you might bring in relational values into the interaction with management of marine space.
I think it's difficult because this is not my method, so this is led by Jesper Kenter, but my understanding of this is if we don't bring in those relational values, then we risk being in a place where management is enforced upon people, and then we end up in a place of conflict, as we've seen before. So it's about bringing all the value types into the dialogue so that we can make the best possible socially optimal decisions. But Francis, I think the best thing would be if I put you in touch with Jasper and you could have a more in-depth conversation about that.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a really good time to, at the beginning of this project, to start bringing in other people's ideas as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you all very much. We now have an hour for lunch and networking, and lunch is out there, and then you are coming back to meet again in here at 1:15 for the session 3. Thank you.